up, and away for the airlines. Check out the Jets ETF soaring. Investors betting big on a recovery and piling into this ETF. And get this, according to FactSet, back in March, Jets held around $33 million in assets. And today, it holds around $950 million. So is it time to get on board with the airlines? And I know all of you guys are pretty jazzed about this sector. Beeks?
No, you know what? I'm going to go no. It is not. You want to trade this thing? You want to trade for a breakout over the next couple weeks? But longer term, I just don't see it. I mean, look at the environment we're in. One of the things is international travel. That feeds into a lot of these domestic airlines. Delta's particularly exposed to international travel. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. They still have too many pilots. They still have too many planes. And then finally, the one thing that a lot of people don't talk about with this is that RV sales and rentals are going through the roof. Once you buy an RV, you stay with that RV. You're driving around the country in that thing. You're not getting on a plane. So I think over the medium to long term, I am a seller of this sector.
I think WFRV might be fun to do, work from RV. I mean, driving around and just broadcasting fast from wherever. You know, there is an argument. Awesome. There is an argument to be made in terms of the kind of airline that you invest in. And one thinking goes that if you have an airline that depends on the hub and spoke kind of model, where you fly into one major airport like Atlanta and transfer and go to another destination, that those won't do as well as sort of the point-to-point direct flight airlines, because people won't want to transfer. The transfer schedules will be really, really tight, Steve. Things change when there are temperatures to be taken and things like that.
Yeah, so I think when you're looking at this, I look through the prism of domestic versus international, sort of the way you just laid it out there. So I'm still long Spirit Airlines, but I think you have to look back on all these charts and look back to May 4th. Why May 4th? That was the date of the Buffett sell-off. And then shortly after that, we had the CEO of Boeing say that one of the airlines was going to go out of business by September. If you look at domestic versus international, you're going to be left with a bunch of carriers that will probably come back sooner, because domestic is definitely going to come back online sooner than international. And then we get back to this ETF. The ETF has all the top names. Southwest, American, Delta, United are its top 4 holdings. So when you look at that, it's got 42% of the fund in those names. The best balance sheets when we went into Corona were Delta and Southwest. When you come out, they will still be the best on the balance sheet front. Those are long-term investments. The bounces are the domestic players.
Jeff Mills, I have a question for you. Would you invest in the airlines, or would you invest in a Boeing, or neither?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with none of the above. None of the above didn't seem to work too well in school, but I'm gonna go none of the above here. I just think it's too risky right now. I'm gonna approach the airlines from a corporate travel perspective. So we've had this obviously forced technology experiment where we're all working from home, and companies realize, mine included, that, you know what, we can be pretty efficient and not be shipping people all over the country. So, you know, I think that there is an argument to be made that, of course, people are going to fly again, but perhaps the future looks different enough that it's going to be a more permanent headwind for some of these airlines. And thinking about the names, Steve mentioned Delta as an example. You know, they have a stronger balance sheet, they have less debt, but even looking at a Delta, they have about 50% of their revenues derived from premium cabin seating. So if you see business travel fall, I would imagine that makes up a fair percentage of that premium cabin. So even there, you can see a specific impact on one of the better airlines. And I'll put my macroeconomic hat on for a second. It tends to be the one that fits best for me. But ultimately, this is going to come down to an employment situation. You know, as we think about people getting back to work and getting back into the labor force, are they going to travel? Are they going to pay for plane tickets? Right now, if you look in April, 18 million of the 21 million people who reported being unemployed said it was temporary. Now there's paper being circulated from the NBER saying that permanent unemployment is going to be more like 42%. So maybe the truth is somewhere in between, but I think it's going to be really important to see how much of the unemployment we're seeing right now is actually temporary. My guess is it's going to be more than is currently reported, and I think that ultimately feeds into everything, obviously, but airlines specifically as well.
And we might be in an environment where tickets are more expensive because of social distancing, Tim. Where do you stand on airlines?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think if people are making an ETF call on the sector, that makes sense to me, right? They're obviously making a diversified thematic bet that airlines were overdone. Top analysts like Hunter K. from Wolf, I think it was Thursday or Friday, went from underweight to market weight on airlines, signaling greater clarity, greater insight into there has been the beginning of at least some turnaround. Not just clarity, but some turnaround in terms of where they're seeing capacity cutbacks start to meet some increase in demand. Everything these guys are talking about is the most profitable part of the airlines business has been business travel and international, and those are things that are going to come back more slowly. But if I was investing now for the long term in ETFs often, they call it portable alpha, whatever there's a lot of buzzwords in the ETF community. But to own an ETF that gives me exposure to the airline industry that I am sure people are going to be flying dramatically, certainly at rates significantly higher from where we are in the next 2 years. That's why you would be investing in something like this. That's an extraordinary move in AUM. But investing thematically in this sector now at these lows where you've priced in those kinds of bottoms that Steve talked about, those were important days. And I do think I would own airlines long term. I do own airlines long term.